Hey y'all, Zach here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I went from a 405-pound deadlift to pulling 635 in about a year and a half, and how you can increase your deadlifts as well. Okay, before we start today's video, I would like to quickly shout out my workout program, right? Program I designed myself to help me get to a 405 bench, a 635 deadlift, and a soon-to-be 500-pound squat with just, a month and a half of training, right? But quick disclaimer, right? If you just have slightly above average genetics, I would 100%, stay away from this workout program if you don't want to be called a fake natural, right? Even if you're not using performance enhancing drugs, this workout program will probably make you labeled a fake natty, right? I'll have the evidence right here and right here and right here. But I'll just use those because this could be a whole clip by itself. But again, it's only $5, less than a Big Mac, but more fulfilling. All right, back into the video. So getting straight into it, first things first, number one thing to do to increase your deadlift is obviously start deadlifting, right? How do you expect to be good at a movement or good at an exercise and you don't even do it, right? I would 100% recommend doing it at least twice a week. One being, lighter volume day where you're working more on your technique and perfecting your form, right? Which is probably doing about 50 to 60% of your 1 rep max. And then the second day being like 3 to 4 days, after your first deadlift session, I would 100% recommend doing a top set, right? Because again, how do you expect to know how much you could pull if you're not even pushing yourself, right? So that's what I ran for a while, right? I was doing twice a week. I was really trying to work on form for a minute. And I was just kind of experimenting with different grip variations, right? If you don't know, I used to do mixed grip, right? Here's a video of me doing mixed grip. And now, if you've been watching my video for a minute, I've switched over to hook grip, and I 100% like it a lot more. And I would actually recommend you doing hook grip, right? Hook grip helped me get over my 545-pound plateau rather quickly, like within a week of me just switching over to it, right? Like here's me doing hook grip versus on 495 versus like me doing it 495 on with mixed grip, right? It was just seamless. It was quick. And this is before I even mastered slack pull, right? And then number two is obviously, this kind of falls in with on your technique day, master the slack pull. Slack pulling is a huge benefit when it comes to deadlifting, right? Because when you're slack pulling, you're pulling this, like it's literally called that. You're pulling the slack out of the bar. And the slack is just pretty much added tension, added weight and resistance to that your deadlift, right? So when you are pulling the slack out, you're pretty much like you're no longer fighting against gravity. Because when you don't pull the slack out and you just yank the bar like say Larry Wheels does, you're pretty much fighting not only the amount of weight you have on the bar, but you're fighting against gravity at the same time, right? So you're making the deadlift a lot heavier than it needs to be. So when I've mastered the slack pull, 585 pretty much looks seamless, right? I'm gonna show you a video of me deadlifting without slack pulling and then me deadlifting with the slack pull, right? Here is the video of me not slack pulling. 585. And then here's a video of me slack pulling 585. Right, you could tell the difference. You could tell the bar speed was like noticeably faster with the slack pull. So 100% recommend mastering the slack pull. It can take some time getting used to with all these cues and stuff because deadlift is a very technical exercise, but it's one of the things where you just need to go ahead and just take that time with it, right? Number three is obviously accessories, right? You really have to like hone in on your accessories, right? Accessories is like how I like to use or see it, accessories as the best analogy I'd like to put is you're pretty much doing side quests to beat the final boss, right? And the final boss being the deadlift. And side quests is what's just leveling you up to beat that boss, right? And the biggest accessories that I could recommend are other variations of the deadlift, like such as RDLs, which is a really good one, and SLDL, stiff leg deadlifts, where you're just pretty much you aren't really bending your knees at all and you're just picking the bar up, right? But I would 100% recommend doing RDLs more because again, it really targets the whole posterior chain while getting insane amounts of hypertrophy for your hamstrings, right? Biggest muscles that will really come in factor when it comes to deadlifting, especially if you're pulling conventional. Another accessory is obviously back extensions. It targets the whole posterior chain again, but especially emphasis on your spinal erectors, right? You want those spinal erectors to be nice, sturdy, and stiff, right? Not stiff, but sturdy, as in they can take a lot of damage, where you're essentially making them bulletproof, right? And another exercise, which is actually kind of underrated, is low bar squats, right? I started implementing low bar squats, and funny enough, I took a 2-week hiatus break from deadlifting and I went and hit a PR and hit 635, right? It wasn't the cleanest PR, but it was a PR. PRs aren't supposed to look clean. Yeah, so that was pretty dope. And low bar squats, very underrated, 100% recommend. And again, it also hits your posterior chain very heavily as well, like your spinal erectors, your glutes, and your hamstrings, and you're getting some quad emphasis. So that could also pretty much translate pretty decent if you do sumo squat or sumo deadlift as well. So just an insane amount of benefits for that as well. Another exercise is probably some barbell rows, right? Because you're getting some spinal erectors. Even the reverse hyperflies, if anything, those are an exercise you should really do when it comes to warming up for deadlifts, right? Because it really primes up that lower back. Oh, and then you got good mornings too, another good accessory that obviously targets the lower back, the spinal erectors. But again, accessory is very important when it comes to, building your deadlift, right? It's pretty much a building block, right? It's something that you need, right? It's a part of the equation to get a bigger and stronger deadlift. And number 3 is obviously, nutrition, diet, right? If you want to lift heavy weight, you're going to have to eat some protein. You're going to have to, be smart about it, especially like consume carbs every time I'd go for a heavy deadlift day, because it is a CNS taxing exercise, one of the most CNS taxing exercises, because it's a total body recruiter, right? It recruits so many muscles in your body. That's why you probably feel drained after deadlifting, and it's one of the biggest, calorie burning exercises, because it's a compound movement that works like so many muscles simultaneously. It's insane. So 100% recommend you eating some carbs before. If you're gonna eat some complex carbs like pasta, try to eat that 2 to 3 hours beforehand. Or, if you're gonna do some simple carbs like, rice cakes or stuff like that, you could eat that about 30 to 45 minutes beforehand. And then again, nutrition like protein, like you gotta build your, muscles up, right? How do you expect to lift big weight if you're not gonna, be big yourself? So get some protein in there and hydrate, obviously. And yeah, those are probably the biggest things I'd recommend doing to get a bigger deadlift. I know that's what I did. And then obviously when your deadlift starts to become a lot more, you start to become more of a deadlift specialist. I would recommend going maybe down to once a week and just doing like a top set. And then maybe deloading every other week, because deadlift again is very CNS taxing. But as long as you give it your all, you're just going to benefit from it, right? You don't want to do something with low intensity and you only do it once a week, right? That's just not how it works, right? That's pretty much the Mike Mincer way, right? I show up, get in and out, but while I'm in there, I'm going crazy. I'm going hard, right? That's pretty much how you should be doing deadlifts. Obviously, after you specialize and you're a lot stronger and more comfortable with it, where you don't need to work on your form and technique as much, right? But yeah, those are pretty much my tips and tricks when it comes to deadlifting. Deadlift a lot, make sure your nutrition's good, and really hone in on your accessories, right? But yeah, that's today's video. And I want to just pretty much take a minute and say thank you guys, right? I don't know if you didn't see my latest post, but your boy just got semi-monetized, not fully monetized yet, but I'm pretty much there. And I couldn't have done it without you guys, and I really appreciate you, and you guys are awesome. Again, thank you for being a part of my community, and it's just so dope. Thank you so much again. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I really appreciate you guys.